Hello, my good friends. 2.5 years ago, I launched my podcast, Leadership Synergized, with a focus on providing opportunities for you, today's leaders, to gain knowledge from individuals who have impacted lives in a positive and significant manner while serving others through a strengths-focused and values-based foundation. With this vision in mind, I am thrilled for you to have the opportunity to learn from the one and only Chris Robinson, the Executive Vice President of Maxwell Leadership. During this episode, we will be diving into leadership mastery with an individual who has truly mastered leadership, an individual who has earned the respect of highly effective leaders around the world and is now adding a title to his resume, that of author. That's right, Chris Robinson is now an author. Not only will you gain knowledge from Chris's experience and lessons learned in this episode as a leader, but you will also be rewarded with the opportunity to gain his insight that has now become his first book, Drift to Drive, a high achiever's guide to breaking the chains of complacency. I hope, my friends, that you're ready, and if you are, let's go meet and hear from the amazing Chris Robinson. Good day, my friends, and welcome to this episode of Leadership Synergized, where we have an opportunity to talk about leadership and meet individuals who've been there, done that, and continue to serve, coach, and transform the lives of leaders and everyone that they come in contact with. And today is an honor of honors, as our special guest is Mr. Chris Robinson, Executive Vice President with the Maxwell Leadership Team. And I know, Mr. Robinson, that's not the exact title, but welcome, my friend. And I'm going to give you a chance to do yourself justice more than I could and make an introduction.
Hey, well, thank you so much for having me on. It truly is an honor and privilege to be with you. Know, John Maxwell says, hey, a good introduction won't help a bad speaker. So, we don't have to go on and belabor it. And, but I love what I get to do as Executive Vice President of the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team. I've been inside of that role for just over 5 years. And each and every single day, we certify coaches, speakers, and trainers all around the world, over 58,000 worldwide that we've helped go through that process. And it's just been an honor. I started out as a member back in 2011 as one of the very first to be certified by John. I built a business utilizing the tools and resources that they gave me, and then eventually they asked me to start teaching some things, and one thing led to another, and here I am today, getting to add value to people. So I love what I get to do.
Well, and I can speak from experience for the past 4.5, almost 5 years as a Maxwell certified coach, trainer, and speaker, and the opportunity to listen to Mr. Robinson each Monday and in special webinars that he holds on leadership and business building. The passion and the heart comes through so naturally in that regard. And, Mr. Robinson, we have an opportunity to get to work with so many vast types of individuals with diverse experiences in the United States, but around the world. And many times individuals may look and say, wow, you've just been able to swing the bat and hit a home run every time. And that's probably the farthest thing from the truth. And I know you've shared a number of times. And one of the great things I love about listening to Chris Robinson is the open vulnerability that he shares in such a natural way, which is so encouraging for individuals such as myself who struggled a bit with inferiority at times and wanted to stay close to the vest in that regard. But Mr. Robinson, you've had some lessons learned that have brought you to this point in your career as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I have. I think we've all dealt with that at some point in our life of wanting to hold it close to the vest and not letting people see our flaws. But what happens is when we don't let people see our flaws, success creates a gap. And so if at all possible, I always want to talk about the ugly. Because, failure is a connector. All right. You heard the phrase misery loves company. Well, could be more true. But when you only talk about success, you create a gap and you kind of put yourself on a pedestal. And one of my biggest fears is being somebody different on stage than I am in person when you meet me. So I always want to try to keep that gap close and always be who I am at all times. And, that closest to the vest. I mean, like I said, we've all done that before. And then what that does, though, is it really puts us into sometimes an imposter syndrome.
Mm.
And we get imposter syndrome when our need to impress is greater than our need to progress. We have it when our need to impress is when our need is greater than to progress. And so for me, I've just learned that, hey, I want to be a continuous learner. I want to be okay with asking dumb questions. I want to be okay with just being honest and not getting it right and saying, hey, I never heard of that before. I don't know it all. I'm still learning and growing. And so as long as you keep that learner's mindset, I think that being open and vulnerable is one of the best things that you can do.
You hit upon a very good point, and I want to reflect just back a moment. John Maxwell wrote a book a couple of years ago, The 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. And it may be the very first law, the law of credibility. And right in that opening page of the chapter, I see it so clearly. It talks about the best message that we can have is the one we live, basically
I,
each and every day. And Mr. Robinson, when I think of you and listening and learning from you for the past 4 years, I think you represent that message in true life form better than anyone I've ever met.
Wow. Well, and I appreciate that. But again, it's me following a model. I've had the privilege of meeting, a lot of great speakers, authors from all around the world, some of the top names, and many of those people on those books behind you right there. And, sometimes we read those books and we're like, oh my goodness, I love this book. But then you meet the person and you're like, well, I like the book. And I've been fortunate to be around John Maxwell as a model and see him model that closing of the gap. John is the same person on stage as he is in person. In fact, the more that I've got to know him over the last decade off the stage, the more and more that I like him. And that's the way that I want to live my life as well, too, is that, hey, the more that you really get to know me, the more that you really like me. It's not just a presence on stage. And so, but John's modeled that so well that I'm just grateful to be able to have such great proximity to him and how he's lived his life.
When you go back, Mr. Robinson, to the younger Chris Robinson and this whole thing about leadership and being a leader and your opportunity to serve and coach and transform the lives of others, when did you first recognize that you had that desire, that passion, or that skill set?
Yeah, it came in my early 20s. Now, in my teenage years, there was a window, I'd call it from about maybe 16 to 21. I was a train wreck. I mean, when I say train wreck, I mean, I was a mess. By age 21, I had two DUIs, and I found myself in front of a judge. And in fact, not only had I had two DUIs, but I had got kicked out of college 6 times in a year and a half. Now I know you're going, well, how in the world did you get kicked out 6 times? The better question is, how did I get back in 6 times? I had an undeveloped skill set, at that time. But going back in there, I was sitting in front of a lawyer one day, Judge Pelican, and I had got kicked out of college. I had went and started selling perfume and cologne on the street. I had figured that didn't work out. And then I ended up going back to a community college. And in that community college, I got an internship, and I actually was able to get my financial planning license, a Series 7, as a stockbroker by age 21. But I was still pretty wild and out there and really just, I didn't really think that I was going to live a very long life. I mean, I thought that I was going to be just like the judge had told me that day when I showed up for the second DUI. He said, Chris, you're either going to be dead or in jail with the path that you're going down. And he wasn't wrong, and I wasn't disputing it at all. Those were the two paths I was going down, and I was okay with it. And he says, Chris, he goes, you passed the Series 7. You've been kicked out of college, but you've passed the Series 7. He goes, that's not an easy test for well-developed people, well adults to be able to pass. He goes, and you did that at such an early age. He goes, you're not a dumb kid. He said, so here's what I'm going to do. He says, I'm going to give you everything possible to prevent you from drinking except for jail. So I'm going to send you, you're going to do community service. You're going to go to SATOP. You're going to get a blow tube device on my car where I had to blow into a tube for it to start, and it would randomly test me, throughout there. I'm going to give you probation. I'm going to, everything that he could, he gave me. He said, I'm going to give you a fine. I mean, everything that he could except for going to jail. He says, because I don't believe that you're a stupid kid. He goes, but if you don't make the change in life, you're going to be dead or in jail. That was a wake up call, during that time. And I wish that in that moment I had just quit and I had went a different direction. But yet I kind of I tapered it back just a little bit. And then I began to, I still was out partying, drinking, hanging out. And then there was another opportunity. I wasn't driving that night, but my girlfriend, wife at the time, wife now, is was driving, and we get pulled over by police officers. And in that moment, I'm sitting on the curb with my hands behind my back in handcuffs, and I'm going, just like Pelican said, I'm going to jail. This is it. Now, in that moment, something miraculous happened. There was a friend of my wife's sister that was a police officer that heard her name being called over the intercom system. And the police officer told the officer on site, hey, let them go, let them get a ride home. And then from that point, I made a conscious decision that, man, something's got to change. All right. And, from that day, from that time, I believe that was in 2001, I haven't had a single drip of alcohol since then. And quitting that lined me up to get into find an opportunity at a job that I had got connected with through my church that I was attending at the time. And, that led to me getting an opportunity that was greater than anything I had before. I had walked into this gentleman's office because we were friends with his wife, that they were going through a divorce at the time. And we were just friends with her, and she was very well to do. And she says, well, hey, me and my husband are getting back together. You guys have been so kind to me. My husband wants to give Chris a job. Well, I go there and, he says, well, hey, look, you've been nice to my wife. I'd love to give you a job. He says, if you're good at this, you'll make between $8,000 and $10,000 a month. He goes, if you're bad, you'll make about $6,000 to $7,000 a month. Now, you got to keep in mind here, that previous year, I had just made a solid $19,282.33. And this man was talking to me about making $10,000 in a month. And I'm looking around the room like, what in the world are you talking about? Well, I took on that job, and I had took it more seriously than any other thing I had done. And in that very first month, I made $10,000, and the success began to come from a financial standpoint. But something special happened, because in order for me to stand out from the other sales reps, I knew that I had to do something different. And so what I began to do is, our church at the time was offering a course by John Maxwell on VHS. And so I began going, watch John Maxwell on VHS in the basement of this church. I began to come back to the workplace, apply these principles, and I began to understand that leadership is influence. And if I could work on developing myself and developing others, oh man, maybe I could rise. And so that's when I got serious about it. So I was about 21, 22 years old when personal growth just took a radical grip on my life. Been growing ever since. I love it.
Thank you for sharing, my friend. We're all better for the growth focus that you've had, and what an inspiration. And building a little bit, you mentioned your experience with your wife and the opportunity because of the connection she had at that point in time. You lead not only with the Maxwell team and those the rest of us blessed by God to have the opportunity like this to get to hear from you, but you do a wonderful job as a father and supporting that. And you and I were talking off camera about experiences with baseball. Just share some of maybe one or two leadership growth opportunities you've had from the family aspect that you feel
Yeah.
really helped you grow and mature.
Well, we're growing in that every day. We have a large family. We have 6 children. We've got 16-year-old triplets. And so they're driving now. And so that's a whole new world. I've got a 12-year-old single, and then I've got 9-year-old identical twin girls. And so every single day we're learning a lesson because we're in 3 different phases of life with each of them. And it's just an incredible journey. But it's been intense, for every single season because there's so many of them and because they're going through those different phases. And people ask me all the time, well, Chris, what's the hardest phase as a parent? And does it get easier? And the answer is I haven't figured out where it gets easy. It just gets different. It just gets different, from each one of the seasons. And so a lot of first times that are happening for us with them driving, with the twins, interacting with one another, with David playing, sports on his own. We have my oldest daughter and son are in cross country, so we're always traveling for them to run their meets. And so it's just one of the things that I say, if I had to say a lesson that I would give to people is that, in pursuit of your call, your dream, or your passion, or your career, build your career or business around your family, not your family around your career. And so we made a very conscious choice very early when the triplets were first born, that as I was pursuing this business, that I wouldn't go out chasing the road, which is very difficult for a speaker because you have to be on the road. And so I opted to build a business locally by coaching and consulting inside of companies. And then we said, hey, we made a commitment together. Hey, you can go out and speak or go do a consulting deal once a month, but I can't just be on the road weeks at a time. And so making that choice was difficult because I passed up a lot of opportunities and still do to this day, but my family's intact, and, I've built it around them and I'm there for those moments. So I will skip an opportunity to go speak, pass up on thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars to go speak, to go watch a Little League baseball game. Why? Because I won't have that opportunity or experience again. And so, for me, build your family, build your business around your family, not your family around your business.
I love that. Great advice. And thank you for joining us on Leadership Synergized. A huge thank you to my guest, Mr. Chris Robinson, Executive Vice President of Maxwell Leadership. Be sure to check out his powerful new book, Drift to Drive, a high achiever's guide to breaking the chains of complacency. If you found value in today's episode, share it with a fellow leader, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an opportunity to grow.